Welcome to my Atari ST nostalgia trip, and welcome to Leisure Larry Goes Looking for Love in Several Wrong Places. Yes, we're playing Larry 2, and the intro was already playing, as you could hear and you can now see. And of course, according to the rules of my channel, I am playing it in monochrome mode, which will probably not look that great. It is an SCI game, so it will look better than the Shera AGI games, but it's not going to be the best looking game, probably. But the rules are rules and I have to abide them. And the intro to this game is phenomenally crazy long. So as you can see, I have sped up the intro and still it takes quite some time. And it tells you the whole backstory about Larry trying to move in with Eve from Larry part 1, and then she doesn't want anything to do with him. And then we get some story about the Dr. Nonookie from Nonookies Island, who is apparently a really evil man, so you don't want to get involved with him. And after the intro we get into the game, and the first thing you do, of course, is you find a dollar in Eve's garage. And you get the dollar because you start this game with absolutely nothing. You are back to where you were, basically as Larry. And of course, from this dollar you have to see where you have to go. You have to look for love. Other than that, there's no real story to work on in the game, apart from the backstory on the island, but it's not known yet how it connects to you. And of course, I sped up these parts too. Larry has to sort of look in Los Angeles, and basically you go exploring and then try to find out what you have to do. And of course this alley, in Leisure Larry number 1, a guy will come out and beat you up and it's end of game. You die. Luckily my friend is not here, but I can get some extra points here by looking through the hole and then seeing this blatant advertising for Police Quest. So yeah, like any Shera game, this one also has lots of advertising. Sorry, I had to move something there. And after you do that, you actually go to the store and you buy a lottery ticket, because $1 is not enough to get by, so we have to find ways to actually get more money. And of course the clerk is a very, very southern girl, and I can put my card and it says, she says, remember to groom your testicles, because yes, that's our first tried phrase. And this game has a tried phrase which by default is have a nice day, but you can make it any phrase you want. This is the first one I chose. I'm sorry, this is very immature, but I don't know, I felt like doing it. And I will put different tried phrases as they go along, and they will probably not all be really great. But I like the fact that you can put in your own phrase. While I was putting in the numbers, it doesn't really matter what numbers you put in here anyways. But you take your ticket and you wonder, will it be a winner? Well, actually, those who know the game know, yes, it will, because I go to the television studio where this lottery show is also taped, to ask actually the woman behind the counter if the ticket is actually something worth something. And as you can see, the movement is a bit jerky because the Shera SCI port to the Atari ST is actually not done very well. So all the movement, there's a heavy slowdowns throughout the game. So this game, I think it's still probably a bit better than Leisure Larry 1 because it has a bit more storyline, etc. But the game also has a lot of problems. And the first one we actually already saw, which is there are huge sequences that are just completely scripted, and they just take on, they take forever. And yeah, while she says, well, these are the numbers, and she has memorized them. I don't know why she would memorize them, but it helps the story. But the scripted sequences in this game just go on forever. It takes such a long time. Yeah, and after writing down these numbers, you just basically repeat them, claiming that you have the winning lottery ticket, and for some reason she doesn't call anyone over to check. She will just immediately believe you. But okay, it's just a game, so we shouldn't take it too seriously anyways. But yeah, that's correct. You are a lucky guy. The last Lucky Live lottery show of the season is being taped right now. I'll notify the director that you're here, and she will unlock the door to the green room, where I just have to sit and wait. And this wait, in my memory, took a lot longer than it actually took while recording this video, this gameplay at least. So I was a bit surprised, but it still takes quite a bit of time. But then, of course, a very, very heavy stereotype gay man comes out of the door, said, "Oh, there you, poo-poo." And he basically says, well, you're late, where have you been? We're already sick about you, you have to come. And then I apologize for the stereotyping. This is very much a product of the 80s. And they mostly get away with it, mostly because Larry is just a real jerk. But yeah, he walks in, and this doesn't look like a lottery show. He gets into a dating show. And again, this is another sequence that just takes forever and ever and ever. So I accelerated, and I think that I accelerated by like 10 times. So this is heavily sped up, and it still takes quite a long time. And if you play the game for the first time, I guess a lot of this is quite funny because she asks you questions, you can type any answer you want, he will just say it. And it doesn't really matter what you say, because in the end she hates you, but you actually win the dating connection by accident, which is about to happen right now. She says, I have made my choice too, and he says, it's number 2, and she says, no, that's not what I meant, but you have to stick with your first choice. So she gets very angry. But apparently I've won a cruise with the lovely bachelorette Barbara, and we were spending a solid month together. How about that? And of course for our contestants, blah blah blah, but she doesn't want to go, but he tries to sort of talk over it. And that's the end of the dating connection, and I leave the room again. And yeah, I've sped up all of the scripted sequences because they do take forever. Maybe it's a good time also to talk about the looks of the game. Because as you can see, well, the SGI engine does indeed look better than the AGI engine, but for some reason, while I pull the lever or the wheel to see what prize I've won, for some reason Space Quest 3 with the SGI engine actually looks quite nice in Monochrome, but this game really doesn't. It's I don't know, it looks a lot darker, and I know the emulator probably doesn't do the Monochrome justice, because I remember the Monochrome games also actually looking quite nice on the original paper white Monochrome screen that came with the ST. So if you really want to know what it looks like, you should actually look at it on real hardware, and then look at it on the SM124 or 125 Monochrome monitor, while Larry just puts a really big $1 million check in his inside pocket, and of course he immediately has to leave because the lottery show is over. Good night, and we are ready. And this first part of the game, I did it, we are now like 7 minutes in the video, and I've been heavily cutting and speeding up the video. Normally this takes just forever, it seems. And if you do it for the first time, it's nice, but if you want to play to the game another time, it just, I don't know, it's annoying that a lot of these things you cannot really skip, except for the intro, of course. But after I won my money, I of course go to the most expensive shop in town, which is the Molto Lira, that sell really nice Italian clothing. And the only thing I can actually afford for $1 million is actually the swimsuits. The suits are all more expensive than $1 million for some reason. I mean, the reason being that you just have to buy the swimsuit. And I buy something in spandex in blue. And of course I have to pay her. This is probably also the only store that will have change for $1 million. So you need to really go here, because anywhere else they will not be able to. I actually don't know what happens if you try to buy something else for $1 million, if you just take your money and it's game over. I couldn't be bothered to actually try. But she smiles. This is a trivial little clearance item. This is all you're going to purchase today, because yeah, this is an expensive store. Well, I only got $1 million on me. What are the odds? It's just, okay, it's $106,500 including tax. That's quite a lot of money for a swimsuit, even if it's half price off. And then she starts counting down really slow. And this is also some running thing in the game that they, for some reason, they want to annoy you by making you wait really long for everything. And this is probably to emphasize it. So yeah, Larry also gets impatient. Come on, my cruise ship is leaving, so you have to be fast enough. I think you have to be fast enough in this first stage of the game, otherwise you can actually miss the boat, but I'm not entirely sure. But of course the next stop is the barber shop, because yeah, and all barbershops look the same in this game, so that's also a sort of running gag. And of course my hairdo, I look really old, I have a bald spot, and I want to have Bachelorette Barbara, or Barbie in this case. I want her to think I'm attractive, so you will visit a lot of barbershops here and you will get a lot of different treatments. And of course in the first one you are dreaming about your nice hairdo with long hair and looking young. And of course you're daydreaming about some other stuff too. And even the barber will notice. They are interesting daydreams, says the barber. Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I don't know, you visit several barbershops in here. And of course now Brutus comes along, the dog peeing his leg. And in every barbershop you get a treatment, but you need all of them, so you have to go through all of them, and also they take quite some time. But after washing, he's going to cut my hair, and well, aren't we all curious about what it will be? And he says, well, take a look in the mirror to see, and of course he looks exactly the same, which I guess is sort of funny, but I've played this game too often to really have to laugh about this anymore. But you can't judge a book by its cover, so it's okay, I guess. Larry will hopefully be successful in getting his finding his love in his life. I mean, I know how the game ends. I just played through it entirely just to get this footage, so that took me actually quite some time. This game is a lot longer than Leisure Suit Larry Part 1, and it's partly longer because of all the scripted sequences where it makes you wait really long. And you will also struggle more with this game because it is a lot more linear. So it has like 4 stages, 4 or 5 stages. So the first one is here where you have to get back your money and you have to get all your items so you can get on the cruise ship. And after that you go to the next stage on the boat, and from the boat you go to the island and then to the airport and then to another beach or something. I forgot, but there are different stages, and once you finish a stage, you cannot go back. And as you can see, I sped up this whole sequence again because it's really taking long. All you do is talk to the girl, and then you exchange all these things. And of course it says have a nice day, which I translated as remember to watch Daktari tonight, which was a television series in the 70s or 60s even, I think. But of course here the story sort of folded out how Larry actually get involved in the workings of Dr. Nonookie, because apparently one of his agents looks exactly like him. But let's get back to the game story. Yeah, there's 4 stages, and here you can see I'm actually about to end stage number 1. So I have to have all the items necessary that I can get in stage 1. I have to have now, because once I get on the boat, like I am now, I cannot go back. So if there's anything I forgot to get that I will need later in the game is unfinishable. And that makes this game really cruel. I mean, I don't know why they did that. I mean, the stages they did probably so they could use different floppy disks on the ST for different stages, so you don't have to swap disks all the time. But yeah, it's a bit annoying. But we are now on the boat where my cabin is actually not as luxurious as I would have hoped. So it's very unlux, but yeah, we are in the lowest deck, noise coming from the diesel engines, and I have a bed, a nightstand, and a small closet. That's all I have. And there's also a door in the wall, and that door actually leads to the room next to it, where Bachelorette Barbara's mother is actually waiting for us. But I skipped that part because I'm basically on the ship. You have to just collect a lot of items, and also make sure you don't get caught by the agents that are now trying to find you. And that could be KGB agents, but also yeah, some of the henchmen of Dr. Nonookie. But I'm diving down to get the bikini top. And actually, if you take a deep breath before you dive down, this part is actually a lot easier. So a lot of people struggle with this part because they just dive and don't take a breath beforehand. If you take a deep breath, you have a little bit more time, so it's easier to do. And of course, in the ship, in the ship's bar, you get the dip. You don't need to get the dip, but it gives you points. You also need to be sure to get rid of it. And of course, this boat also has a barber shop, and this barber just gives you a wig made of his mop. So it looks absolutely ridiculous. So Larry decides to not wear it, actually. And the barber says, "I'm sorry, I'm programmed this way," which is another tried phrase in the video. How about that? And of course, after that, I go to the captain's cabin, not the cabin, but to the bridge. I pull the lever, which is for the lifeboats. You have to make sure that he doesn't catch you, because otherwise it's end of game. And of course, then you get to the lifeboat as soon as possible, and they say, "Okay, jump in and let the lifeboat go down, because I have to escape this cruise ship. If you don't do this fast enough, you will get tired, go to bed, and Mama will jump on top of you and crush you." So all the parts in the game also seem to have a time limit. And then there's again, of course, a really long sequence of Larry in the boat, and here you will find out if you did everything correctly. So I am wearing the wig. I actually threw away the dip. And I also put some sunscreen on. So yeah, they say now, "Oh, good thing you put on the sunscreen. If you forget, this is end of game. And now also, if you didn't put on the wig or you don't have it, you will burn your head." And of course, now you get very thirsty, and it's a good thing that you get the grotesque gulp, which is one that you get before you get on the boat. So if you didn't get that drink and you got on the boat, you will only find out now hours later, and then you will have to play it all over again, which is just really, really cool. And of course, you have to get mom's sewing kit so you can fish for food, which I also did. But yeah, this is sort of, the boat is just one big puzzle where you have to get all the right items and some items from before you got on in the first place. And then make sure you get rid of the stuff you don't need and you have the stuff that you do need. And of course, after 10 days at sea, you finally get on the beach and you are saved. And luckily there's a guy here to help you immediately. So I guess Larry is doing really good. Well, not really. It's just a colossal asshole. I don't know why that guy does that. But I guess it's because, yeah, Larry is a bit of a jerk. And Larry is very misogynistic, very sexist. So the game makes sure he never wins anything. He's always a loser. But on this island, well, there are lots of naked people. That's interesting from him. And so this looks like paradise. But it's also very pixelated, and in monochrome you don't even look at it. But yeah, the woman there, she immediately starts talking to you, and actually she tries to seduce you, and you shouldn't do that because yeah, she's also an agent, so ignore her. You go into the jungle, and the jungle sequence is also super, super long. And in the jungle you have to, at the center, once get the flower. And in all the documentations of the game, it says if you type exit by the second time you get into the jungle, you can get out of it. But actually, on this ST version, for some reason it didn't work, so I had to go through all of them, and of course I am making them really fast. I already went to a hotel room. But now I found a restaurant, which is... Sorry, I didn't go to the hotel room yet, but yeah, once you get out of the jungle, the first thing you see is you get into a restaurant, and you just had this tediously long jungle scene, and now you talk to the maître d', and he asks for my name, and of course I'm not a rich or famous person, so there's no table for me. He will just sit me down in a chair and he will see if there's a table that they can prepare for me. And then again we go into one of these tediously long sequences. I have no idea why they did it. I mean, it's sort of funny, and you have Mr. and Mrs. Rich coming, and then Mr. and Mrs. Famous, then actually Mr. and Mrs. Gates, who are also Mr. and Mrs. Rich, but and they were not as rich then as they are now, but it's nice that they are here. And of course, after Mr. and Mrs. Gates, also Mr. and Mrs. Williams come in. Yeah, which was basically Ken and Roberta Williams, who are the owners of Shera Online at the time. And after all the famous people came, he finally says, well, maybe I have a table for you. And yeah, they will set up a really tiny table for me. And all this sequence, it takes so incredibly long. And the one thing you should not do is actually eat here, because I think also the food is served poisonous, and then some henchmen or agents will catch you. And of course he says, remember, drink Chardonnay for dry January, which is another tried phrase. And this one I found fitting since I'm recording this in January 2023. But imagine just I mean, I sped up this like 5 times at least, maybe even more. But if you're just waiting there, you're sitting there waiting, and especially on the ST, the SCI engine is just so slow. You have to really, really wait. And yeah, the only thing you do in a restaurant actually is look at the buffet, and then you have to get a knife that you will need. So you have to go through this long sequence. This game tries to annoy you by making you wait, and tries to reward you with an item that you get only after you've waited for I don't know how long. And it's I don't know, I have a bit of a problem with that. Even if I thought Larry 2, when I played it for the first time, I thought it was really funny. But of course in 1988 I was like 13 or 14 years old when this game came out. So as an adolescent, anything having to do with a guy looking for sex is just tremendously funny. But yeah, after another ride in the jungle, we get to a barber shop, another one. And yeah, he wants to do something about the hairline, and now you get a barber with what's probably supposed to be an Italian accent on this island. So for you today, I got a special deal. I'm gonna try some minoxidil. Don't you mean minoxidil? No, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna rub your head with some of this liquid laundry detergent. Well, okay. And of course you're stuck in a chair. The barbers in this game are sort of crazy, but it works really fast. He finally has really long hair, and all these sequences in the jungle you have to do, because this jungle part is also just one big puzzle where you have to get all the items before you can pass a certain threshold. So the game is also a bit repetitive in that way. You just get different items. But here Larry is nice long blonde hairs, and yeah, what should I do with his blonde hair? He says, well, have more fun, which is sort of, yeah, blondes have more fun. He said, well, at least my bald spot is gone. Yeah, he says, along with your self-respect, remember to shave your hairy back, which is another tried phrase. Oh, I love changing these tried phrases in the game. This is probably the only thing to really look forward to. And of course, I get back in my hotel room. I put on the bikini top that I acquired, I put the soap inside the bikini, so I have nice big boobies and blonde hair. So I'm almost ready for my disguise. And actually, after this, I also went to the barbershop once more time to actually have my body waxed. I just didn't put it in the video because, yeah, there's already so many barbers. But after doing that, yeah, you look very, very feminine. And the KGB agents waiting there, they don't recognize you. So if you forget to do any of these things, you won't pass. But also, if you don't get the knife in a restaurant, you will pass these KGB agents, but you will not have the knife. And of course, then another long sequence that I just sped up because I was a bit sick of it. It takes tediously long. It is totally unnecessary because you cannot fall down, you cannot die here, and for every almost fall you get some points. But yeah, you just have to find your way, and once you're around the corner, he basically says, well, you made it. You catch your breath, and the first thing you have to do is to put on your suit, because otherwise the guards at the airport will actually immediately arrest you. But from here you cannot go back. So if you did not get the knife, which you will need further in the game, and you will only find out when you reach that point of the game, you have to replay the whole part of that game again. It is so cruel. And I think that's also why many people actually hate this game, and I think a lot of people have also hate me right now for playing this in monochrome, because it really doesn't look very good. And I promise you, on the CRT monitor it probably looks a lot better. And of course in color it looks better than this, but the rules on my channel state any game that's available in monochrome, we should remember that they were available in monochrome, so here we are. And the first thing you do at the airport, of course, is give a flower to these Hare Krishna people, because they are not Hare Krishna, they're KGB Ishna. And giving them the flower confuses them so much that they just bugger off for some reason. And while I'm already talking for over 20 minutes, this game also supported the use of the Roland MT32. And I tried to emulate it, but I had some problems, and in the end I decided just to use the normal ST sound, because it sounds good enough. There's not a lot of music, it's a very silent game, and we are in another barbershop. And yes, they look all the same, and of course in this barbershop, the barber is actually Rosella from King's Quest IV. So it's another plug, another piece of advertising for one of the other games. Well, she said, yeah, I can make a really nice hairdo for you. And of course she starts cutting your hair. And in the end she says, well, what do you think? And yeah, basically your hair is all gone. All the blonde hair is gone, but you have to. She also says, yeah, you should never trust a barber with longer, prettier, blonder hair than yours. So I guess, thanks for the advice. But he says, at least I look like my passport picture now. So if you don't go at the barbershop in the airport, you cannot continue. So you have to do this. You have to get rid of your blonde hair. And of course, apart from that, she also gives you a hair tonic, which is a really, really important item, because without it, you cannot finish the game. And it is highly inflammatory. And then she says, next time, meet me in color mode. Which is another tried phrase I filled in. And of course, then you get to the airport, and I sped it up again, because yeah, you show the passport to the guy, and you have to look at all the suitcases, and there's so many. And then if you play the game for the first time, sure, some of the contents of the suitcases are actually quite nice. That was a dead cat, by the way. But you have to find the one that contains a bomb, because there's lots of lines in front of the desk. And if you stand in line, only the two lines that you are not part of will move, and your line will not move. So it's pretty much like real life. But here also, yeah, this imagine how long this takes at normal speed, especially on the ST, where yeah, this engine just suffers from heavy slowdowns. And of course, there's another bit of advertising. some weapons that are meant for Police Quest 2, but this one contains a bomb. And he says, okay, what do I do? Well, what do I do? I should get it outside. And he just keeps screaming at everybody like, I have a bomb, it's really, get out of here. And nobody really cares. They all just keep standing in line. And then, yeah, I'm not gonna read out all the text. I just sped up everything. And of course, the bomb will explode, which is here. It's a big boom. And the boom actually looks quite nice in mono. And at least the lines are gone. So you had to do all this long, so you can get out of the lines and get actually to the desk, because you need to get your ticket. In that respect, it's really a weird game. I mean, it's kind of weird. But yeah, in the end you get your ticket. You actually get some food where you find a bobby pin. You get a parachute from a flight insurance machine, but I skipped all those parts. And you get to your very, very long terminal where your mind starts to wander. And then Allo probably thought this was very, very humorous. And probably when you play this game for the first time it is. When you play it for the second time, you already get sick of it. And I think that's also a bit of a problem of this game. It's not really a game you would play again for fun. You would play whole through, because it just, you know all the jokes. They are very easy jokes, so they're very easy to remember. But once you get on the plane, you get next to a guy, and the guy, you know him from Lefty's Bar. And he says, wow, I haven't seen you in a long time. And you are just not very happy to see him, because he says, let me tell you this joke I heard. And he says, no way. You say, no jokes. All you ever told me was punchlines, which is true. When you sit at Lefty's Bar in Lisa Should Larry 1. But you have to make sure he shuts up, so you give him the pamphlet that you actually got from a desk before you got on the plane. Because if you don't give him the pamphlet, whenever you get up, the stewardesses immediately come and they start serving drinks and you can't pass them. And also the airplane part, you have to do fast enough, because I think otherwise the airplane will crash. So you have to make sure you don't crash and die, which you do by escaping the plane. And escaping the plane you do by getting to the emergency door. You first of all wear your parachute, and which sort of panics the other passengers, but you sort of, okay, I slide it under my coat, which I guess is a way of doing it. And then you have to get to this back part of the plane. You actually unlock the door, pull the lever, and then you open the door. Of course, you immediately get sucked out of the plane, which is animated quite nicely actually. And then of course you pull your parachute, your ripcord of your parachute. If you don't, you will fall to your death. So that's a good idea. And yeah, jerking you around or feeling not wholly unfamiliar to you. And of course you land in your parachute, you land in the tree, and then you have to cut the ropes, for which you need the knife. Then you get through a whole jungle scene, and I just wanted to show you that I was actually able to jump the 3 vines to get to the other side. This is basically some puzzles where you have to escape from bees, from a snake, from quicksand, and then these 3 vines. And after you've done that, yeah, you actually have to get the vine, and then you get to the beach, and you sort of get to the last stage of the game. And the last stage of the game, you are not actually doing a lot. The last stage of the game is mostly very, very tediously long scripted sequences, which is really annoying. But of course, first you get this native girl. She's waving at me and she's topless. So it's Larry's paradise. But this is the start of a really, really long sequence, which I also cut a little bit in this recording, because yeah, it's love at first sight and also at second sight, which is nice. But it just doesn't end. They just stare at each other all the time, and then their hearts start pounding. At least we have this nice photo of her, of the lady. Yeah, she could be the love that you were looking for. Well, let's hope so. But after this, it goes on forever and ever and ever. It just takes so long. But in the end, basically they decide to get married, and she says, well, yeah, I would like that, but there's a problem. They can't get married yet, but she will introduce you to the tribe. But these are all... From the moment you walk into the screen, there's not a single command that you give. It's just they follow each other. Now sped it up because, yeah, she introduces you to the town, and then she introduces you to her father, who of course looks exactly like Ken Williams. And then he has to prove himself worthy, so they bring out a computer and he has to show that he can actually program in machine code, assembly code. Yeah, which is sort of a nice joke. I mean, it makes no sense, but it's a multitasking system and it's called Unix. Yeah, which I suppose is really funny. And then he shows you, okay, this is where you have to go. You have to actually find Dr. Nonookie and you have to eliminate him. And if you've done that, the island is back for us. The island is ours again. And then you can marry my daughter. Yeah, you think like secret. Any fool could see that. And of course, Ken Wow or Ken Williams says the same. But you can go to the impenetrable fortress of Dr. Nonookie. And then he says, by the way, did I mention my daughter was a virgin? And I don't know why he says that. Because I'm not sure if Larry would actually care about that. As long as he gets into her pants. And he says, next time, let's meet in color. So yeah, another try-phrase. And I think I repeated this one. But Larry has to get to the other side using a vine. Actually, before I did this, I collected some stuff from the village. So you can immediately throw the vine. Of course, you get to the other side. But then you cannot go back. And you actually need some stuff to progress that you have to get from the beach and from the village. So you have to get some sand and you have to get some ashes from the fire in the village. If you don't, you have put yourself in an unwinnable situation, which is very typical of Sierra games. And I've gotten used to it, but especially in this game, because many times you have to go back so far in the game to get the item that you forgot, that it feels a bit overly cruel. So I think they went a bit too far with this one. But yeah, he's asking himself lots and lots of questions. So will you stop asking all these questions? Get on with the game. Yes, please, Larry. So he went up the mountain. He went to the glacier, and here I used the ashes. I put the ashes on the ice, which makes the ice melt, because the sun will burn on the ashes, and then the ice will melt. And what you can see, it's actually a big refrigerator. So the glacier is completely artificial, just to keep the natives away from his fortress. But at least these were some parts where you had to actually enter some commands, because again now, yeah, he gets on top of the mountain. So we are actually very near the actual end of the game when it comes to solving the puzzles. I mean, what you have to do here is basically you put the airsac back from the plane in your bottle of hair tonic, and then you light it with the matches that you find in a hotel in the jungle. So all these items, if you didn't get one of these, you will find out here, and you have to replay all the way from the beginning in the jungle, where you have to go through these tediously long jungle scenes again just to play everything again. That's just so cruel. And now you're holding a very, very flammable bottle, so you should drop it immediately. If you hold on to it, it will also explode, but it will explode in your hand, and that's also game over. And I think I didn't get maximum score when I played through this. I am not entirely sure. But yeah, that you dispatch your Larrytov cocktail in his merry mission with a hearty grunt. And he throws it inside, and of course, then everything starts to shake. So there's about to be a big explosion, so you have to really hurry. And of course, there's only one way you can go, which is in the door of this elevator. And once you go there, basically from here, there's absolutely nothing. I think he automatically goes into the elevator even. There's absolutely no commands you have to do. So from here, the entirety of the game all the way to in the end is completely scripted. And it just takes so long. I mean, I have accelerated the hell out of it. I think I played it like 10 times the speed once he falls into the castle of Dr. Nonookie. Because this takes so long. All the women that try to seduce you are here, and some women behind the piano, and Larry is just falling all over the place, and then the piano falls on top of Dr. Nonookie, who is then grabbed into hell. And yeah, you break the hypnosis of the natives, who immediately get topless, because that's what they normally do. Yeah, he tries to use the phone, and there's a film crew. There was a film crew on the beach, so they will come with a helicopter. He's just pushing all the buttons to sort of get the artificial fog going and opening the door. Yeah, and this is now quite fast. This is like 10 times the speed, but at normal speed this just takes forever. It really takes forever, and here it's still not done. Because now you're still going, and now you're getting married. This is not even the end of the... This is all scripted sequence. You can't do anything. It just takes forever. You're just looking at it, and it's... I don't think it's entertaining enough to really keep me entertained, but I do like that the cameraman is actually moving exactly the same way as the cameraman in the television studios. But yeah, now they are spinning really fast, and they smash pies into their faces, wedding cakes, and they have to moonwalk as a ritual. And they make a nice photo, and that's it. And then they the witch doctor actually gets into his hut, and don't all witch doctor huts look alike? Well, sort of. This is our last barbershop sequence, but he's actually preparing a potion that should really help me. So Larry just takes his chances. He gets me upside down, and I change into rabbits, horses, or donkeys, or whatever they are. And take a look in the mirror. Well, you did it. You really did it. You finally have your young looks. So Larry, in the end, is quite successful in this game. But he was in the last game too, and that woman, yeah, it didn't last. So in part 3, this relationship will also not last probably. But he's very happy that his dreams have come true. And of course, we knew what he was dreaming about. Which was him running naked on the beach, and that's exactly what he's going to do as the last thing in the game, and that's basically end of game. Here he is, running naked with his lovely new native wife, and they get into the water, and the volcano will start erupting, and that's end of game. And there's not even like a real end, it just keeps going. And it took me quite a while to actually play through this to record all this footage, because I wanted to have monochrome footage of basically all parts of the game. I don't know, I'm not really sure about this game. Do I like it? Yeah, kinda. It's better than Larry 1, except it's also really cruel, and it's also, because of all these extra stages, it's a lot more... yeah, a lot more linear, I guess. And just like the part 1, the game really hasn't aged well when it comes to the jokes and stuff. There's lots of stereotyping and stuff, and yeah, nowadays you just can't do it anymore. And for me also, it's not as funny anymore as it used to be. But I'm glad I went through it. I'm glad I could show you this game in monochrome. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching.